Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good greetings. Today we will be dealing with quite a sensitive topic, but in when I look on YouTube on the recommended video, this is one of the video that is recommended on my list. Perhaps because I have watched videos uploaded by this person before, and this is titled "Raped in Saudi." Right, so it does touch. I'm assuming it will touch on sensitive issue of rape in Saudi, and he will try to associate it with Islam, I presume. Right, so we will see whether that is correct or not, or what will be the narrative here. But this will be my reaction to the video titled "Raped in Saudi."
Before I start this video, just a trigger warning. I'm going to be discussing sexual violence and abuse. So this is a disturbing story of how a woman was gang raped by a client in Saudi. And then after that, she was thrown in jail. Do we know for sure that the story is true? No, it's a bit anonymous, and understandably why. There's no need for further humiliation to the victim because there's never going to be justice for her in this case. But it is plausible. It very well could have happened.
Did I hear it correctly? Does he imply that the story may actually happen but not confirmed or something? I do understand that cases like this, even if it happened, sometimes it is being put under the carpet, etc., that we cannot even get an official story of it, right? I do understand that. But I think from the disclaimer he put, we cannot even ensure or make sure that this actually happened, right? And maybe before going on, I might also say this: even if there is a confirmed story of a Muslim person doing something bad towards another person, still that does not justify associating it with Islam itself, right? Because the criminal is the one who commit the crime, and that does not necessarily mean that the religion itself has anything to do with it, right? So we will see how this story goes.
I've heard other such stories of women in Saudi being kidnapped and raped, and there's nothing they can do about it. We can use this story to highlight how Islam would deal with the situation if the story is true versus how it would be treated in the West. What else did I take away from this story? Apart from the Islamic problems, just that Saudi is a lawless society, that guests to the kingdom are not treated fairly and really have no rights. If you go there, you have to be extremely careful in what you do. But unfortunately, sometimes you can be in a compromising situation for no fault of your own, and then you can be abused. Of course,
Okay, several things. He did mention that if it actually happened, then how Islam deals with it. So I'm expecting something that is to relate to the original source or primary source of Islam, the Quran and Hadith. So we can discuss about it if that is being raised. Second, he did mention about Saudi Arabia and how Saudi deal with things, right? And I think from the previous video that I have reacted from this person, also he somewhat attacked Saudi Arabia as well, and for whatever reason, that seems to be justifying the attack on Islam in terms of, I don't know how it relates. So on that note, I think many Muslims do not accept that association. Just because Saudi do something that means Islam promotes it, that is not accepted by many Muslim, by the majority of Muslim, I believe, right? So I'm not sure how much of what he will be showing or saying or sharing is in the context of relating to the primary source, and what is associated relating to the Saudi or the stories, etc., right? So I'm not sure if I will be cutting out some of the portion that has nothing to do with whatever I would like to respond to. We will see.
it's well known that the maids are frequently abused by Saudi men, and they have little to no way to charge the accusers under the sponsorship visa system. as this Samuel bin al-Hayy.
Okay, again, so I think this will be go on about how Saudi people treat other people, right? So that has nothing to do with Islam. So I'm not sure how long this will be focusing on this particular part, but I will cut out this portion because it will be mainly discussing about Saudi policies, etc., which is none of. I mean, we do have concern and we do hope things improve, but that has nothing to do with Islam. So I will just leave that behind and we'll just focus on any part that actually can be associated with Islam. Okay, so I think I will just skip something that has nothing to do with Islam. So here he start to go into some Quranic verses, so we will focus on this part.
Stands for nothing here. The Quran says, and those who accuse chaste women and do not produce 4 witnesses, lash them with 80 lashes and do not accept from them testimony ever after. And those are the defiantly disobedient.
Now, if you are familiar with that verse, you will have some question, the same question as me. What that has anything to do with rape case? Because that is a case of accusing people involving in zina, meaning consensual sex between two unmarried person, meaning sex outside of marriage between two consensual person, which is considered a sin in Islam, right? It's not a rape case. Rape is different because there's a victim there. In this case, there's two consensual person involved in sex, and whether you can accuse anyone of doing that, right? So I'm not sure where he is going with this.
So you can't even make another accusation after that if this happens to you once and you don't have 4 witnesses. Even though this ayah is directed to women, in Sunni Islam, as Qurtubi says, there's consensus that this applies to men as well. Not surprising then that the rates are so much higher in the West. We don't whip women who don't have 4 witnesses. We investigate the issue.
Again, I'm not sure how he actually connect that verse towards rape case. It doesn't have any connection, direct connection at least.
Now you might be wondering, why so much about witnesses and not so much about evidence? Because that's what Muhammad came up with. You expected a sophisticated and effective legal system from a 7th century Arabic man? Not at all. The entire system is terrible. 4 witnesses is almost impossible to get, and then on top of that, the burden is put on women to justify it.
Again, he is mixing many different things at once, which is, I do not know what is the reason for that. Is it, I know, intentional or what? No. Again, okay, the issue of 4 witnesses is for accusing any person in that hadith or verses. It's about accusing a woman of having involved in consensual sex, which is zina, right? So it is very hard for anyone to make that accusation because you have to have 4 witnesses. Now, he is implying that victim of rape have to find 4 witnesses. How? Why? What is the relationship? Because that is a different case. You are a victim. You are entitled for the due process, and there's an investigation, etc. But for accusing people having consensual sex outside of marriage, that's a different case. So I will touch on the ideal behind the actual verse and the implication in terms of accusing people of zina, but I want to hear from him first what he want to talk about this rape case, because if there's no case to be discussed here, then there's no relation to this verse anyway.
So in this story, this woman claims that her half-sister Lewis got a job offer to be a stylist in a women's access-only boutique in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Okay, I will cut some of this portion because it's just a case accusedly something happened, and even the story is quite interesting where there's a drug involved, there's alcohol involved, and how is that relate to Islamic, meaning the accused criminal that do the bad thing actually use drugs, actually use alcohol, and then rape the girl, the woman, right? And even that can, okay, then that person, the criminal, confirm is not a practicing Muslim, and you cannot associate that with Islam, clear cut. Alright, so we'll just cut to here and to hear what his conclusion is based on that story.
Be careful going to Saudi. Be careful being involved in anything illegal. And frankly, like, it's just not worth the money, you know? Like, I mean, everyone has to make a decision for themselves. But, you know, when you go to such countries, you're at the whims of the Saudis, and there is no due course, there's no due process. If you're sexually assaulted, what can you do? I mean, you're not going to have 4 witnesses. So if they're going by Islamic law, you're screwed, right? It's just a very bad situation for women overall.
Okay, so several things being patched on there that I don't know, it's not even valid. One is just fear mongering about Saudi Arabia itself. I'm not going to comment about Saudi Arabia and what the country is like, etc. But even if there's a problematic thing there, it doesn't imply that Islam is the promoting agent of that, right? It doesn't, there's no relationship there. And then suddenly, if someone is become a victim, you cannot even find 4 witnesses. That has no basis in Islam, basically, because a victim of a crime, you can have due process. We are not talking about someone accusing other people involved in zina or consensual sex, right? This is someone who have been, you know, crime upon them. They have the right to go to the authority, etc., right? What is this 4 witnesses coming from? That is not a relationship at all. So I'm not sure what else he will be talking in this video. If it has nothing valid or of value to be put, I'll just listen first.
Saudi women as well have the same problems. They can't even complain about rape because they'll be accused without 4 witnesses, right? If you ever wanted to live under Islamic law, your life would be hell as a Muslim woman.
Okay, so it's mostly fear mongering, so I'm gonna be stopping there. I will decide in editing what is irrelevant I will just cut out, because it's just fear mongering of 2 women. Actually, the angle he's playing is Islam is bad for women. Why? Is because statistically most convert or revert is women, right? So that is an interesting statistic. So he want to paint a picture that if they know the reality of Islamic law, they will be terrified. All right, now what happened in some countries, some tribe, some society, that's one thing. To associate it to Islam itself, you have to really look into the primary source, whether that is actually promoted. So I wouldn't go at length for that one. It will be a long video if I do. But going back to specific, because he keep on going about the 4 witnesses and rape victim have the burden to prove with 4 witnesses, hence it is always going to be loose for them, right? Now, number 1, that ayat is for zina. Zina is basically two person consent to sexual act, but they are outside of marriage, meaning that it's a sinful. Now, there's a difference between sin in Islam, because anyone who have done sin, they have to answer to Allah Almighty, God, the creator of the world, in hereafter, in the judgment day, right? Any sin at all, you have to be accountable. You will have to answer, and heaven or hell, the outcome, the final outcome, right? So whatever type of sin. And when we are talking about things like this, it's not the issue of sin, it's the issue of criminal law or jinayat, right? When we talk about hudud, etc., it's about the hukum jinayat or criminal law, right? It's basically crime against other people, against society, etc., right? So not all sin have this kind of criminal law, right? So in short, we'll just focus on this one, zina. Now, people might ask, why is it become such a crime, hence such a big heavy punishment, right? Now, you have to understand the difference between the sin itself, meaning in Islam, outside of marriage, if you are involved in sexual activities outside of marriage, that is a sin. You have to answer to God, as we mentioned before. This case specifically, it becomes a crime law. How come? All right, so this will be a lengthy topic if you are interested in this one. So I'll just, to make it short, I'll just pinpoint, and hopefully you can pick up what it means. Islam is normally, if you know go about the history, the seerah, etc., you'll notice that first, it's not pushing the criminal law. It's first about akidah, about faith, about iman. So Muslim is being educated about hereafter, about judgment day, about Allah Almighty, and they will become afraid to sin. Number one, to cut the story short. Number two, of course, also there are ethical code, moral code that is being implemented in Islam, and hence people becomes of a certain moral code. For example, in this, related to this criminal law, for example, the verses that says you have to lower your gaze, control your what you view, you watch. You cannot check out girls on the street, you cannot watch pornography, etc. All of that is moral code, right? How you interact between men and women outside of marriage, etc. There's a moral code there. So number two, if everyone already settle number one, they do not want to sin, and number two, they have a moral code. So in the society, people are not used to watch something that they shouldn't. Women in the magazine without proper clothes, checking out girls, etc. People do not do that, right? So based on that foundation, please imagine the society how it is, and the kids will never see billboard of women not properly clothed, etc., etc. They do not have any access to pornography, etc., etc. So all of that is creating a certain type of society. Under that society, the chance of people to be involved in certain sinful act, in this case sex outside of marriage, will become very minimal, right? That's number one. Now, how this criminal law come into place? If you understand that for witness, right, and if you go into detail, the witness must be people of good moral conduct. They do not frequent sinful place like prostitution place, etc. They are those who are morally upright, right? And for them to be able to come up and become the witness for saying those people, that girl or that man or that couple, if involved in sex outside of marriage, they have to witness. In Arabic, they use, I think, the example of the ink pen going inside the ink bottle, right? Meaning that if they just watch someone kissing, etc., that is not zina. If they watch someone seemingly doing that action but covered by cloth, etc., they cannot actually see what is happening inside of that cloth, you cannot accuse that. It means that they have to see that actual penetration to be able to accuse, right? And in that case, what is the possibility of four morally upright men to be able to view that that act? It only means that for whatever reason, for example, they are bringing their kids to playground, and then suddenly those two people doing that uncovered, that everyone can see what is going inside what. In that society, with the background that I've said, everyone would agree that is such a crime against society, against humanity. Do you understand the context? It's not just about someone doing that action in a private home or hotel, etc., right? Because there will be no four witness there. In this case, they are doing that kind of action in public to be able to have four witness there. Now, that is how or why you can understand that everyone in that kind of society, in that kind of foundation, would agree, regardless of Muslim or non-Muslim, they would agree that such a crime deserves such a heavy penalty, and hence the heavy penalty, right? So the understanding of the four witness is that, meaning that how can four good people that will not go and watch certain things that they shouldn't watch, that it's not like they're finding people are doing in action, they're just living their life, and suddenly that happened and they actually see that, right? And hence those people doing that in front of the public like that deserve to be punished heavily, because it's crime against humanity, right? So that is why it becomes a criminal law. right? So that's the essence, basically, right? So if you, it is quite interesting about this, because when we discuss about this topic, I do found out that not many Muslim even understand the concept, etc. Right? So that is interesting. Even non-Muslim, even more so, right? How can they understand when many Muslim also do not understand about these things? All right. So under that circumstances, then you can put into perspective of, okay, so that is the context. If you are non-Muslim, right, and you are living in that society, right, no one is immoral, etc., etc., and every children is upbringing is shielded from all these influences that make them whatever, thinking of whatever, etc. And then suddenly that happened, people are doing that in public, that everyone can see what going into what. Would you agree that is a crime against the whole society? Right? That is what makes it such a big crime, right? So that's basically to put in context. Now, it has nothing to do with rape, because rape is different. Rape is someone making a crime against someone else, right? This one, they are doing action, they are consenting, but they are become criminal towards the whole society, right? This one, of course, the victim here, because in that case, the zina case, the society is the victim, right? And these two people, criminal against society, obviously then it have to become a court case, and the state have to handle whatever that is, right? So that is due process. Still, there's due process. When we say for witness, meaning there will be due process, because this witness is having to have testimony, etc., etc., etc. Now, in the rape case, the second person is also a victim, and also the society can also become a victim if they become fearful of this rapist or whatever, right? So it is illogical to suggest that Islam require the victim here, the person being raped, to produce for witness, because the context is totally different. That case is not just zina, they are doing it in public or something, right? So I cannot make this video that much longer, because I have to catch my daughter is finishing school and I have to fetch her, so I cannot make this video too long because it's already time. And also, even if I do quite a long video, most people would not watch anyway, right? So I hope, I'm not sure what is the point of this video. Is it a misconception on his personal understanding of the four witnesses case, etc., and how it relate to rape? I'm not sure what. So yeah, so that is my reaction to this. Hopefully it is of value, and hopefully it gives you some understanding of new things if you haven't heard or understanding this type of context of Islamic rules and jurisprudence, etc. Hope to see you again soon next time. Hopefully we will find something of better value to react to, but hopefully even if this video itself do not have anything of value to be discussed, but it does trigger some discussion that we have, and hopefully that is of value, inshallah. So see you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and have a great week.